So instead of that potentially realistic story that you're telling yourself, look at just the objective reality. I am a man, she is a woman, I feel a certain way right now, I need to express myself. Do not create unproductive, unconstructive narratives that are going to stifle you and destroy the potentially great outcome of the interaction. Hi guys, Sam from Fluid Social, talking to you from the wall in front of the bridge in London. And today I want to delve a little bit into how we can extract stories from realities. A lot of the time, the process of actually getting better at communicating, and particularly talking to women with a romantic interest, what we need to do is to remove clutter rather than to add additional knowledge and information. The problem isn't that we don't know enough, the problem is that we have too much and we need to detangle the mess and only keep what's essential. So today I'm going to take you through 5 different stories that we tell ourselves and extract the reality from those stories. So the first one is approach. When we're walking around and we see a beautiful woman, we're thinking, oh, I need to approach. We see another guy and we're like, oh God, I just got to start approaching. I got to start doing my approaches. And that word starts to become such a dominant factor that we build it up in our head as if all that's important is approaching. And when we're so focused on this one action, this one approach, we forget actually why we're here. We're not here to approach. We're here because we find someone attractive and we want to have the resources and the skills and the knowledge to be able to deal with that situation when we do find someone attractive. We want to be able to respond to it. We want to be able to talk to them, maybe build a connection, maybe take a phone number and meet up with them and date them, turn it into a relationship or something else. It's not about the approach. So if you're thinking all the time, I need to start approaching, oh, I did 2 approaches yesterday, I got to do 3 approaches today, you're forgetting what's important. You're distracting yourself from the feelings and the emotions of seeing someone that you're attracted to and wanting to go and build an interaction with them. And you're bringing all the focus onto this one, essentially benign action, which is the initial entrance into the interaction. It's not important, it's not relevant. So if you are one of those people that's thinking, oh, I need to approach, I need to do my approaches, and you find that that word is almost scaring you, it's almost building this pressure on you and making things very difficult, then I strongly recommend that you actually just come back to yourself. So what you should do in that instance is you should focus on one full breath, all the way in and all the way out, and then you look at the girl and you allow organically the feelings of attraction to come into your body. Because if you don't feel those feelings, then you entirely forget why you got into this in the first place. You think it's all about the approach, when really it's about having the resources to deal with an interaction when you want to have one. So the second point is anxiety. A lot of people try and get rid of their approach anxiety. They think of it as something that they need to destroy, or they, I get asked a lot, what techniques do you have for getting rid of approach anxiety? And what I tell my clients is this, is that if you focus on anything, that thing grows. Look at the Trump presidency. The media focused so much on how bad Trump was and how much of a bad candidate he was, that he got the most airtime of all the candidates by far. And look what comes out of that. McDonald's gets so much negative attention about how unhealthy it is that it grows year on year on year, because all people think when they see the big yellow arches is of the delicious flavors. And so McDonald's grows and grows. There's that phrase, all publicity is good publicity. And if you're giving approach anxiety publicity, if you're giving it attention, then its notion is growing. The body of anxiety is growing. Whether you're trying to get rid of it or you're trying to build up your anxiety, it's growing if you're thinking about it. So what I advise you do instead of this is to just ignore it altogether. The reality, the story is approach anxiety, the reality is adrenaline. All that anxiety really is a series of chemical reactions in your body. If instead of getting wrapped up in the idea of getting rid of anxiety, you just feel the raw sensation of adrenaline going through your body without labeling it anxiety, then you can act despite the feeling. You can feel that going through your body and take the necessary action as well, without letting the one feeling determine your actions. They don't have to be related. You can feel the feeling and then act anyway, but it takes your conscious awareness to do that for yourself. The third one, rejection. Now this is a difficult one. Let's say you see a really beautiful woman walking past. She walks past you. It's very natural for us as guys to think, if I go and talk to her, she's probably going to reject me. She probably does have a lot going on. And let's be honest, if you're looking at a Victoria's Secret model in Bond Street, around Bond Street Station in London, which you see a lot of, the likelihood is that she does have a lot going on. And she probably won't have a lot of time to stop and talk to you. But the narrative that you're telling yourself is actually determining that outcome. So when you're saying, she is probably going to reject me, she probably has a boyfriend, she probably gets approached the whole time, you are then sucking all of the energy out of your approach and creating a scenario in which she has to reject you because your attitude is off. So instead of that potentially realistic story that you're telling yourself, look at just the objective reality. I am a man, she is a woman, I feel a certain way right now, I need to express myself. Take that reality, express yourself, and then let whatever happens happen from that situation. Do not create unproductive, unconstructive narratives that are going to stifle you and destroy the potentially great outcome of the interaction. On the other hand, you can actually visualize, how would it look if I went up to this girl and she stopped for me, she held eye contact, she was very expressive, and we had an amazing interaction. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but what would it look like? What would it feel like? What would it look like with a smile on her face? As I'm holding her hand and she holds onto my hand a little bit longer, how would that feel? Are her hands warm or cold? The further you go into that visualization, the more likely you are to create the attitude that's likely to create that outcome. So our rejection is the story, the reality is you're a man, she's a woman, follow the feeling that you have. The fourth one, W, when. So one of the biggest things that I see from my clients, and it's something that I had to battle with as well, is the idea of when. And it's like, I'm going to start approaching when I move into my new apartment. I'm going to start approaching next week when I've got my new wardrobe, when I've got my new clothes and I'm feeling better about myself. Oh, I've got this massive pimple on my head, so I'm going to start approaching when I get someone to burst the thing all over the kitchen mirror. I'm going to start approaching when I stop seeing my ex-girlfriend, who I shouldn't have been seeing for the last 2 months. So this idea of when, that there's a better time in the future for us to start, and that there's something fundamentally problematic with starting right now. A little bit existential, but the fact of the matter is that unless you change something now, that better situation is never going to come. You are consistent throughout time unless you actively change something within. So right now is the best time it's ever going to be. The longer you leave it to begin, the harder it's going to get. There are no exceptions. Start now so that when that pimple's gone, so that when you move into that new apartment, you've already got momentum. You've already built yourself up enough and you're confident enough so that you know if you meet a girl and you get on really well, that you're going to be confident taking her to your apartment, cooking her dinner, watching a movie, whatever else that follows. Now is the only time that you can start. As long as you're putting it off, it's never going to happen. You have to start now. Finally, L, line. What line shall I say to this girl? I had a client 2 days ago, and he said, Sam, you know, I just need more good indirect openers. And I was like, man, you don't need more indirect openers. The girl is never listening to what you're saying. She's listening only to your attitude. Everything that you can say with words is nothing compared with what you're saying with your body. And there's so much that you can adjust. You can sit up straight. You can hold your head straight. You can lift your chin up. You can put your shoulders back. You can adjust your body language, but ultimately there are micro communications in the face, subtle muscular tensions in your cheeks that will tell a girl whether you are relaxed or whether you are nervous. So if you are feeling nervous, it's time to go in anyway. But go in accepting that nervousness, fully embodying it and appreciating that that is the way you're feeling right now, but you're still going to go ahead with it, and then it will subside and you'll be able to show your personality, your attitude, the better version of you will shine through. But you've got to remember that she is not listening to the words that you're saying. The same two lines can be said, one with a good attitude and one with a bad attitude, and they mean completely different things. Take, for example, a random line. I like to take my dogs for a walk in the field. Bear with me here. So one attitude could be like, oh, that's great. Yeah, on the weekends I like to take my dog for a walk in the fields. That's maybe a nervous attitude with some facial tension, and a girl would probably read that I'm very nervous and I'm not fully sure of myself at the time. The second one, that's really interesting. On the weekends I like to walk my pups through the field. Something like that. If you can smile with it, have a little laugh, maybe suggest something else just by the line that you're saying. You can actually suggest something sexual, maybe a double entendre. But she is looking out for the micro communications in your face and your body. She's not listening to just the words you say. So there's many more examples here, guys. But what I really want you to take away from this is that there are stories that you're telling yourself which are clogging up your brain and stopping you from having the smooth, happy, confident interactions that you want. It's not about adding knowledge. You shouldn't be looking for information that you can add to your mind to create more content. You should be looking to declutter, to take what's essential, to get rid of the fakeness, the stories, the bullshit, and just leave with clarity what is important and what is essential in your interactions. So be very wary of whether you're telling yourself the truth or whether you're getting wrapped up in narratives and stories, and take this exercise that I've gone through with you today and see if you can extract the reality from the stories. This has been Sam talking to you from Tower Bridge on a beautiful spring day in London, and I'm sorry for the absence. I'm back now in London. I've been very busy in Brazil and Colombia, but I'm happy to be back, and there's going to be a lot more content coming, so bear with me, guys. Thanks a lot. Sam.